Guys, welcome back to another video. And this video I'm gonna react to Pirate Software. Let's get started.
President Theodore Roosevelt once said, "The only man who never makes mistakes is the man who never does anything." If that's truly the case, then what are we to make of a man who will never admit to his mistakes? Enter Pirate Software.
No, my dad didn't inspire the WoW guy from South Park. My dad
is the WoW guy from South Park.
In 2023, you could barely even use YouTube without the algorithm serving you a video of this guy.
I have seen a lot of videos, especially from YouTube shorts and also from TikTok of this guy, and at that time I was like confused how he's getting that amount of views. And by the way, his content is not that much of interesting. Like, he is explaining simple tasks by drawing things on the board or sometime on the screen, and people are watching it. At the same time, there was a lot of people who were hating him. For example, he will just explain simple tasks by overly complicating them and trying to be like a genius guy. You know, there are some friends in your friend circles who thinks that they are over smart, and Pirate Software is like one of them, who think that he know everything and other people don't even know how things work. So he's like a superior guy.
Jason Hall successfully made himself the face of coding-savvy gamer culture. Just 3 years later, his reputation is in the gutter.
I'm ruined. I have nothing left except
anthropomorphic animals.
It all started with his streams playing hardcore World of Warcraft, where
By the way, I remember about this incident that what he did, he decided to run from this place and everyone was angry. And I think so that was the start of his career, that everyone started to hate him even more. And it was a funny thing to see that
he abandoned his teammates and then lied about it.
That's a mistake on them, and I'm not going to get blamed for that.
On the surface, this itself seems so petty that no one should even care. But then came his opposition to the Stop Killing Games initiative, which ended with most of his audience turning against him, as he argued in favor of massive, greedy, anti-consumer corporations.
Yeah, at that time he was trying to be like a savior for those special big companies, and he was talking like, come on, those big companies will suffer some damages. Like, come on, there will be no damage. They are already shutting down certain games, so they will never profit from that game. So how about just give it to the community, open source file of the game, so people can just play it on their own private servers. But he was there to become like the protector for those big companies, and I don't know why he did all of those things. I still don't know what he was thinking by like supporting those big companies. Like, come on, it is pretty logical and pretty obvious thing that everyone hates those big companies. No one will be there to support those companies, so why are you doing that? Like, did he think that his subscriber will also like say, oh yeah, you need to do it, you need to be opposite of that creator, what that creator is saying, and we will support you.
But it's not these blunders themselves that cost Jason everything. It's his inability to ever accept when he's in the wrong.
So I want you to listen to this phrase. This gets misconstrued as arrogance, but in reality, it's this. That is the most arrogant statement on the planet, bro.
I don't see it that way, but all right.
His arrogance attracted the attention of
Yeah, he was and is very arrogant that he does not even try to accept his own thing which he did. What I think is that he thinks that people can just forget about this whole incident, or maybe he thinks that if he try to deny a certain fact and by not apologizing to people, that people will start to say like, okay, it's okay, and he's a type of that kind of guy.
The most dedicated breed of haters. People willing to spend all of their free time scavenging through his entire life. It didn't take long until a lot of other interesting things came up in their research. During his time playing Second Life, he had a reputation for taking advantage of people who worked with him without paying them for their work. In EVE Online, he was hated for being an arrogant, pathological liar. At Blizzard, he was described as an insufferable nepo baby whose employment hinged on the fact that his father was somewhat of a legend at the company.
I did that for Blizzard.
Jason would simply join a community, destroy any goodwill he held within it, and then hop along to the next one. But people only realized just how bad his paper trail was once he became an internet celebrity.
We're going to take you to court. You're going to lose.
And another thing I have seen is that most of the time, if suddenly a streamer started to become popular, they will just fall that instantly. And it is pretty obvious that I have seen a lot of creators, I'm not gonna name them, and a lot of streamers that they just suddenly become very popular and very famous, but a few months later you will never hear about them. And I think same thing is happening with the Burnt Peanut, that he's suddenly become very popular, but now I think a lot of people are hating him. It will be pretty interesting to see like what happened in the future.
By the second half of 2025, his viewership had dwindled to a fraction of what it once was.
It is pretty much very low views for channel of that size.
But many people believed that from the shadows, he would finally learn his lesson and change as a person.
I don't think so. The thing I have seen of him doing certain things, I think he's very arrogant and has a very much big ego. That's why he will like never say sorry to people, and they will just gaslight you by thinking that you are not like better than him.
They were wrong.
We got a screenshot of that, sent it up to them. Guy never got banned.
But the way that Pirate was framing this situation wasn't entirely, it wasn't truthful.
They've also been downvoting all the videos because they just don't like me. I don't care.
A game developer who supposedly has 20 years of experience, who hosts game jams for a dwindling audience to maintain engagement. A man who, against all odds, continues to stick his beak into places he shouldn't, misrepresenting reality and once again awakening the horde. A lot has happened since my first video, and today I'll be covering everything. Last time I talked about Pirate Software, I covered how Stop Killing Games was succeeding while Jason's career floundered in epic proportions.
Yeah, it was the second wave of his fall down that he suddenly started to lose a lot of subscribers. There was a huge hate on him, and I think that was the final blow to his career, that it was over for him. And I don't know why he does not even decided to say sorry. He was just saying like, okay, so if you are criticizing me, you can just do so.
And to be honest, not much has changed on that end. For a brief recap, Ross from the channel Accursed Farms spent years trying to call out the industry practice of discontinuing online games once they were no longer popular, meaning that players who paid for a product would suddenly lose their access to it because the company doesn't want to keep paying for its servers. With one of the best examples being Ubisoft's The Crew. 9 years after launch, it was made completely unplayable for everyone who bought it. It was literally disappearing from people's game libraries as if they never even had it. Obviously,
I don't understand companies most of the time, especially those companies who decided to just abandon their game and just let them die, especially the live servers games. Like, okay, if you are going to try to like close all the servers, how about you just publish the source code of that game so people can just try to play that game, especially for themselves, by making a private server of that game. But they will never do that. Like, come on, you are not even making money from that game, also you are not losing money from that game, so why you are not trying to just publish that game for people to just modify that game and enjoy that? And how about if a lot of people started to enjoy that game again, your next game, if it is related to that specific game, people will love to support you guys even more, but they just let that game die, do nothing, which is quite surprising thing. Yeah, I can understand that sometimes those developers think that, for example, if we give the game open source file to people, they can just exploit that and try to like install malware and do things by like making private server, and in just random updates suddenly your PC is full of malware. Yeah, I can just understand that. So how about you make a new policy about that game, that for example, if you want to make a private server, but that private server has like a huge community, so a lot of people are actively joining that private server, so we will just add one of our moderator from our company to especially that community, so he can be just the head of that community and check if there is like a malware added to this game or not, or if somebody try to like not add those kind of thing to the game. I think that will be a better solution for those kind of tasks. I don't know what those companies even think about, like why they are not trying to do that. I'm pretty sure if suddenly a company decided to like do that and say like, okay, so this game which was dead for that amount of time, we are just happily trying to make that game file open source, so you can just download that game and play it for your own by making private servers. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will be happy and will support that company even more.
Obviously, a company shouldn't be obligated to pay for a game's maintenance forever. So
Yeah, which is like how most games are. If a game company thinks that they are not even making money and they are actively losing money by operating those servers, how about you make that game open source so people can just play it on their own private servers?
Ross and a legion of other equally dissatisfied gamers proposed a compromise. They called it the Stop Killing Games Initiative, which basically just asked for companies to simply have a protocol in place that allows players to run their own servers if they want to. Obviously, some games are so huge that doing so is kind of untenable, but then again, that's the player's problem.
Yeah, and also I don't think that it will be that hard for modern computers to handle. If somebody has like a PC that he is trying to play a open world online game with his friend on the private server, which will have less player, not that much of a player, I think that PC can handle that. And if they want to like make a big community, yeah, donation can work, and they can just make a powerful beefy computer to run those private servers.
The corporations themselves don't need to worry about the feasibility of it as long as it's technically possible. This doesn't seem like that big of an ask to make from multi-million-dollar companies, but it was clearly too much for Pirate Software. Among many other critiques and blatant misunderstandings of what the campaign was even asking for, he said this.
It is incredibly vague and will damage all live service games. If we're going to be setting precedent, which could change the way that law works all the way down the road, then we need to be sending the right message, which this is sending a vague message that doesn't cover the actual problem. No, I will not be supporting the initiative Stop Killing Games.
Guys, I'm gonna support those huge multi-billion-dollar companies, but I'm not gonna support your casual gamers who are actively trying to support me by donating me money, by watching my streams, by helping me. But you know what? I don't give a about you guys. I will just support those huge companies because I happen to work in those companies and my father was also there.
You're not going to change my mind on it because I find this language to be incredibly vague and damaging to the rest of our industry.
And it does not even make sense. Like, okay, so I can just understand if a certain game which he was working on, or maybe he was the owner of that game, people were actively trying to say that thing about that game, so I can just make sense about it. Like, okay, so you have made that game and people are trying to ask you like, give us the open source file so we can just make our own private servers, so you have some kind of attachment to that game. But no, people are not asking about your game. People are just asking for those dead games which are there in thousands and thousands of quantities, and people just want to play those games and wanted to feel the nostalgia. But you are here trying to defend those big companies by giving like illogical explanations.
However, as time went on, and the European Citizens Initiative, which was born out of Stop Killing Games, managed to reach its signature requirement with a whopping 97% validity, Ross began communicating directly with representatives of the European Union.
Signatures for the European Citizens Initiative have been verified. We've officially passed the threshold, and on February 23rd, the organizers will be officially presenting them to the European Commission.
While in the process of speaking to them, Ross eventually heard from a vice president of the Parliament of the European Union that, in fact, Jason was wrong.
One point that keeps coming up again and again is, the initiative needs to be more specific, spell out exactly what it's going to do for the answers. Well, according to the vice president, he says, no, it is good that we're not specifying exactly what should be done, because that's a good way for it not to gain traction.
What's really interesting about this is that in Jason's own critique, he complains that a blanket solution like Stop Killing Games could not work in some exceptional scenarios, which is a really good reason why the initiative shouldn't be overly specific. It needs to account for a wide variety of different games that may all need to adapt differently to these demands. By the way, it's really funny that the crew was pivotal in kickstarting this whole thing, because now people have privately reverse engineered the game and it's currently in a playable state. For something
Yeah, if a community tried to help each other. I'm pretty sure they can do whatever they want, but still there is like a legal consequences of those actions. So I hope so those people who decided to reverse engineer the whole game does not get sued or anything like that. But still, it is a good thing. Sometimes I see games which are like pay to win games, and I just wonder about like if there was a private server of this game, I just want to play the private server of that game, so I can just experience how those pay to win players feel by having unlimited money in that game. And I just want to buy every single thing and open all the loot boxes and things like that. Just want to experience that feeling, and that's why sometimes private servers are very important.
That is supposedly too expensive, time-consuming, and difficult for major game companies to do. It's really impressive how random people online repeatedly can figure it out, do it themselves, and then release it online for free. Jason's embarrassing attempt to stop the movement in its tracks ironically gave it more support than ever, as Ross was able to use Jason's downfall to rally thousands of signatures in his favor. Meanwhile, Jason's career took a nosedive. His Twitch has been consistently losing followers, and it dipped below 1 million in late 2025.
Obviously he will lose those followers. Come on, no one is there to support that kind of guy who does not care about their own gamer followers.
By November, his average viewers on Twitch, which used to be well over 10,000 at its peak, dwindled down to around 2,000 live viewers. Meanwhile, his monetary income from gifted subs and ad revenue were also in a steep decline. Granted, he did still have a few wealthy donators who would drop a fat stack on him every couple of weeks to keep things afloat. To make it
how it's possible he have that kind of people. And another thing, maybe I feel like that why he decided to not say sorry is that he has a lot of money. That why he decided to say like, okay, F it, I don't care about those people who are leaving me. I'm not gonna say sorry to them. I will just continue my whole Twitch journey because I have enough money to afford my lifestyle. Can somebody just comment and say like, does he have a lot of money, or maybe he's just like the narcissist guy which has a very huge ego, so he's just doing whatever he wants and maybe he will end up on the road. But I'm pretty sure he has a father who was working in the Blizzard, I think so, and he was also there, so he can just get job somewhere else maybe, or maybe he has enough money again to live a completely comfortable life.
looked like the channel still had motion. While he definitely still makes a good amount of money, even in comparison to other content creators, it's a shadow of what he was once earning back when he had partnerships with Ludwig and other popular streamers.
Does Algo punish you for the downvotes? Yeah, generally that happens. So like if you're wondering I'm not showing up in your recommended, it's likely because of that.
As a result, he did what a lot of creators who are, quote, falling off tend to try to do. He diversified his content in hopes it would bring people back. This manifested as the Indecember Games Show, where he would spend the year's chilliest month playing indie games on stream and interviewing the game's developers. At face value, this might look like someone with a decently large platform trying to shine some light on small indie games that would otherwise go unnoticed.
You know what funny is that at the start he was defending those big companies by saying like everyone was wrong and why you are demanding private servers, but at the same time now he decided to like help those small indies companies. Why are you doing this now? Like why? What suddenly awakened inside you that you decided to say like, okay, so it's time now to help those small companies, but at the start you're helping those big companies and not helping those gamers who just wanted to play some games which was not available in the market.
My hope is to build something that showcases how awesome the indie space really is without money being an issue. However, this decision to play all of these indie games came off as more of an attempt to farm engagement off the community rather than to actually promote anyone. For years at this point, Jason has held game jams, where instead of him playing the games himself, he'd have his mods do it. And because of how poorly ran these events were, it heavily hurt his reputation within the community. To really delve into the meat of the situation, we have to take a look at a few relatively relatively long posts on Reddit which summarize the expectations around this event versus the reality of what happened. User Spicy Bread made a couple of threads on r/GameDev about Jason's game jams. I joined Pirate Software's recent game jam, and I highly recommend against participating in future ones. Firstly, community voting was turned off. This is standard for game jams. Members of the community play and rank games, and in return, they get a boost in visibility. Not so in Pirate Software's community. This feature was entirely disabled. No one was able to decide community rankings except for the mods.
So what was the point of creating this community if all the voting is coming from the moderators, and I'm pretty sure those moderators does not even interested to play those games especially.
Judging was entirely decided by Pirate's mod team. And oh boy, they made a very strange set of decisions. They admitted to spend
Only spend 5 minutes per game. Like how? I think 5 minutes is not even the tutorial of the game. So how they decided to say like, okay, so this game graphics looks okay, so how about we give him some rank, and this game has like pixelated graphics, so I think this game does not deserve it. Come on, this does not even make sense.
only 5 minutes per game, and selected a list comprised of many amateurish games. Of the top 10, several of these games were very poor, inarguably undeserving of the position. Much better games were snubbed to promote these low-quality entries. The jam had no shortage of talent, but the top 10 certainly did. Furthermore, when I left my post-jam write-ups on game number 2, it was deleted by the moderators of the jam, and I was permanently banned from all Pirate Software spaces. The review is gone, but the reply from the developer remains, and they seemed anything but offended. The jam is corrupt. I don't know what metrics were used to determine the winners, but they are completely incomprehensible. They disable public rating, which also disables karma. Itch.io's karma system rewards developers who play and rate a lot of games with additional visibility. Disabling the system removes that incentive structure, so it leads to a more dead jam. The judges, bless them, are very overworked, so they usually end up leaving short and basic feedback. No slight to them, I think their job is unfeasible. The top picks are usually very strange. Jam number 15 was won by a pretty decent game with no implementation of the themes asked by the jam, just because it happened to be about Thor's ferrets. About half
Is he furry or what?
the top picks of jam number 17 were nowhere near the best picks of the jam, much to the frustration of myself and many others. When Thor plays the top picks on stream, he shows real disrespect for a lot of the games he chooses, barely even getting past the tutorial of some, while playing others for 30 minutes. He shows a huge amount of favoritism towards certain genres, especially games like Heartbound, and open disdain to other genres like incremental games.
So if he is like that biased for those kind of games, why he even decided to make the whole scene by saying like, okay, so we are going to check indie games and do this kind of rating, while at the same time you does not even like those games? So how about you don't even try to do that? I'm pretty sure he was just doing to like attract people, and he was doing this kind of things. People can just say like, oh, he's finally a better guy now and he's helping us, but at the same time he's doing this kind of shit.
Fine for an individual, unacceptable for the host of a game jam. It's worth noting that this whole post was made in August of 2025, a time period during which the Pirate Software hate train had long since left the station. So to play devil's advocate here, it could be that this developer, Spicy, was merely a frustrated dev hopping on a bandwagon and exaggerating things to get attention on Reddit. But one of his threads actually was corroborated, not by just anyone, but from a former moderator for Pirate Software. It's true that we only play games for 5 minutes, and we basically just pick games that we personally had fun with. Then the team
How it's work, like the 5 minute thing, I can't even understand like how it is possible for you to rate some game by just playing it for 5 minutes.
all plays those games that anyone listed in their fun list. They are put into random slices of groupings, so each mod plays 2 to 5 groupings. It's a very disorganized system, but when we have 2,000 games to play in a week and only about 20 mods to work on them, shrug. It's a flawed system. We're also told not to be negative in our reviews.
So how about you do the public ranking system, like people can just vote for their favorite game, and at the end of like month or week you will able to see like which kind of games are in the top rank. And then how about Pirate Software can just play those games and see like which one is his favorite and do the rating. But at the same time, Pirate Software was also biased against certain games, so his also judgment does not even count. So I don't know what I'm even saying at this point, like how much of a stupid community this is.
Constructive, but not negative at all. I know that when I judged, there were a lot of spectacular games that just didn't fit most of the judges' playstyles, so they didn't find them fun. It's insanely subjective. In response, a lot of people pointed out that the easiest solution to the problem of having too many games to judge is to simply open the game jam up for the community to vote on, something that's already the standard for these kinds of events. But for some reason, this was never an option for Jason. In fairness, after he became widely hated online, I guess I can see a reason for him to not allow everyone to vote and fear that trolls may come in and get up to some mischief.
So what are troll gonna do to games which you does not even try to make? Like those games were from the indie developers, so how about just let the people choose whatever the game they want?
Another $200 donation!
Lol lol lol, get trolled lol lol lol.
The West has fallen.
With that being said, Jason already had the policy of only allowing his mods to judge games long before he was hated online, so I really have no idea why it was done this way. My best speculation is that Jason wanted the game jam to cater more to his personal tastes and what his favorite stuff was, rather than what the best game was.
So why he even decided to like make the whole scene? He can just say like, okay guys, this is the video and these games are my favorite games, that's it. Why would you like waste people time and also those indie games times by saying like, how about we do this kind of shitty situation and we will at the end of the event we will see like which game wins.
As for the rule of no negative criticism and banning anyone who criticizes anything, we already know that that's par for the course for Jason, so that's not really surprising.
You would know that if you were a programmer, which you're not. Banned.
While all of this lore in and of itself was pretty interesting, another game dev also came forward telling a similar story. I love this jam and the people. The judging process, on the other hand, here's my story. We are known in his community because we try to do MMOs for his jam. The Umbra Arise game was our first MMO attempt, but as I was sharing progress during the jam, one of the head mods that is a judge basically said, "You are either cheating or lying. You can't do an MMO in 2 weeks." You can see this in meme screenshots posted on the itch page. We took it like a champ and ran it as a joke. The problem is, I think this actually affected the judging and they just assumed we cheated. The game doesn't play that great. It's hard to get into, but it's really fun once you understand the bad controls.
What kind of understand the shit controls or what it is written? Because I think that is quite a few meanings of this word.
The technical fleet behind it was impressive to many, and his community ended up loving us. Did we make top 10? Nope, Bad Games did. Our game was so popular in his jam that it was spammed in his chat, and he decided to highlight our game on stream as special extra game that was cool. He said it was incredible that we made it, so why not top 10? We believe him and the team just can't comprehend the fact we accomplished this, even though I posted everyday progress on the game. Even though our game left an impression on people, and in his chat on the VOD, you will see some commenting, "How did this not get top 10? Don't get me wrong, judging so many games is hard. I know they try their best to have a fair system, but it's ridiculous how some insane games get pushed under the rug. I'm pissed that me and my team got accused of cheating because we tried to do something big and challenge ourselves. Game jams are about pushing boundaries, and we feel these, quote, jokes against my team was terrible. Quote, "You don't have the skills to do this. If you do, you cheated." That's how real hard work is seen by these clowns. As you can see, the impression this whole thing gives off is that Jason, and at least some of his mods, are much more interested in parading their relationship to the indie game community around rather than actually rewarding good work, which was supposed to be the stated intention of these events. Naturally, the amount of people taking part in these game jams decreased quite a bit over time once they developed more of a negative reputation.
Yeah, because it was clear that those game jams were not even trying to promote your game. It was just for Pirate Software to select whatever game he wants to be on the top leaderboard, or maybe his mods wants to play some game for 5 minutes and decided to say like, okay, this game is good.
These Reddit posts I just went over are all in reference to Game Jam 15 from July of 2024. It had over 2,000 entries, while the next one from January of 2025 had only 1,700. The first Game Jam held after the drama with SKG erupted had just 400, with the latest one currently having less than 200 submissions. By the time Jason finally got around to playing the games himself for the In December Games show, it was too little too late, and general public sentiment had already
Yeah, at that time everyone was shitting on him.
soured on him to the point where indie devs weren't exactly hankering for Pirate Software attention. Consequently, the videos of him playing the games performed pretty poorly for his channel. There are two really obvious reasons for this. Firstly, his YouTube audience has drastically decreased in size due to his controversies. And secondly, the overall variety and quality of submissions has decreased quite a bit over time. But Jason was determined to stay the course regardless of the hatred he was facing.
The reason why, Temni, is if you look at it, there's a bunch of people that have just been putting hateful comments in all the videos. They've also been downvoting all the videos because they just don't like me. I don't care. I'm just going to keep putting up In December videos because I think what we're doing is cool. And I think showing off all those games is cool. And I think it's really...
Yeah, I'm gonna show those game off, but at the same time, I'm gonna support those big companies. And I will tell you that you guys were wrong. Again, I will say that.
Positive for the community, and I'm not going to stop doing it because some people are upset at me. Who's downvoting them? A bunch of people. It's not just like one dude or anything like that. It's just people who don't like me. It's not really hurting me. It's hurting devs that are trying to get the word out about their game. So
Yeah, try to say like, okay, they are hurting the devs. I'm pretty sure no one will hate those devs, even if you try to play their game, because everyone is here to just hate and shit on you rather than target those indie developers.
bit weird.
In a way, I have to admire the fact that a guy who has faced so much backlash is still willing to continue posting through it, even to his own detriment. Most other people would have given up a long time ago. But his mix of determination and arrogance still doesn't change the fact that his Twitch, YouTube, and his indie game competitions have all taken a significant turn for the worse. But thankfully, he still had plenty of other non-content creation prospects to sink his time into. Despite mainly being known for his streams and YouTube shorts, that was never Jason's priority. His real goal has always been to develop and publish his game, Heartbound. Or at least, that's what he says, and it's what he's supposed to do since people have already paid for that game nearly 10 years ago. And so far, they've gotten just under half of the game that was promised to them. Instead of an actual game, they get quote-unquote monthly updates that are not exactly monthly since he skips some months, and they're not exactly updates since he just adds a few lines of dialogue to the game and not any significant new content. In my original video about Jason, I documented this much more thoroughly, but just so you can understand the degree of laziness this indicates, this game was kickstarted in early 2017, and it had its estimated delivery set to November that same year. At this point, the game already had a playable beta, so it's not like Jason didn't already have a lot of the important groundwork done. And most importantly, it's just an Undertale clone. Now, I don't want to say this to talk down to these RPG maker-like games, especially because I personally think this genre has seen a lot of cool releases. But it's a fact.
If I tell you the truth, I have never played RPG games or any kind of special games. I have played very little games because I don't have a very good PC, and if you go to my community post, you will see what is currently going on. My motherboard and the processor is dead, so I'm currently using my old PC which has i5 4th generation and RX 590, which is the worst PC combo you can ever get, because it is very currently hard for me to even record these videos.
That these games are technically easier to put together than others. That's why many of them are made on the indie side by 1 or 2 man teams. The scope of these projects makes them easier for 1, 2, or 3 man teams to develop. Yet for some reason, Heartbound is still not in a completed state. In 2021, Jason excused the fact his game was years behind schedule with a pretty interesting argument, comparing himself to the developer of Undertale. Toby Fox is a multi-millionaire with near unlimited resources. I'm a dude in my basement making an RPG with 2 others. If you want to play a good game, wait for me to finish it. The thing is, he can't really use that excuse for a few reasons. Toby Fox was not a multimillionaire before he made his game, which he developed in 2 years. The Kickstarter for Jason's game, Heartbound, asked for the resources he would need to finish it, and he ended up raising way more money than he asked for. So a lack of resources is not a good justification. And finally, Jason has been absolutely swimming in streaming money for a while now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, that I'm pretty sure he's rich, so he does not even give a F about especially that game now. And I think he's the kind of guy who is interested in certain task at a start, and after doing it for like little bit, he will get tired of their task.
He's not struggling to make ends meet by any stretch of the imagination. With a game as simple as his, it should have been done many years ago. Obviously, I'm not a game developer, I'm a commentary YouTuber, so my brain is roughly the size of a pea. But some people who are a lot smarter than me with a lot more expertise went over Heartbound's code. And soon enough, the reasons for its development slowing down started to become clear. The first one is that his code is written in such a way that the bigger a project becomes, the harder it is to work on, let alone for anyone else to finish the job.
I think he was working at the Blizzard, so how it's possible that he does not even know the basics of coding?
Because of how poorly indexed elements of his code are, he either has to remember their functions off the top of his head or constantly go back and cross-reference them. In a project that's still ongoing 9 years later, you can assume that he's not remembering much and now has to relearn what his own code.
At that point, you have to just make the whole game again, because no one in right mind will try to go back and try to fix that mistake which he does not even remember, or maybe he need to check the notepad where that specific code was used.
Does constantly. The second reason is that he just doesn't want to finish it. Even with his online career being in a massive state of decay, he's making way more money streaming than he ever could in game development. And the people who still like him now will probably continue to like him whether he finishes the game or not. Anyone who has not stopped watching him since the drama started clearly has no issue with anything he's done, at least not enough to stop watching his content. So that isn't really a concern. With all of this in mind, the only real incentive that Jason has to keep working on Heartbound is that he promised it on his Kickstarter 9 years ago. Clearly,
It's been like 9 years. I'm pretty sure he can just pay somebody else to like complete this game at that point. If you have already invested that amount of time into it, and you have like your whole reputation on the line for this game, and you have not completed it, at the same time you are like bragging you have work at the Blizzard.
has not been motivation enough considering it's been 9 years. Lastly, and this is a more
Was Pirate Software from Blizzard or not? Maybe I'm been saying the wrong company name, I don't know.
speculative reason, based on what Jason himself expresses, he's not really into the genre that Heartbound exists in.
By the way, I've realized through creating Heartbound that I don't ever want to create a narrative RPG again. I just want to create mechanics. I wanted to do systems design. I wanted to make Heartbound so that I could learn how to be a better writer. And I found throughout that process that I just don't like writing. Right? That's...
So what do you want now? Because you were the developer.
Thing learned, right?
But the kind of game that he's actually shown himself to be really into time and time again is MMORPGs. Stuff like World of Warcraft or EVE Online.
I ran and I was out of mana.
But those kinds of games are very difficult to make as an indie dev due to how massive they are. So the most likely reason he even made Heartbound in the first place is because Undertale was extremely popular, and it was relatively easy to make something like it. Now that Undertale is 10 years old and it's become really hard for Jason to continue making his game because of the coding issues, progress is still at a standstill. This is why he's taken so long and why he started.
I just want to ask if somebody know and have played this game, like how it's possible that this game is not complete, like what need to be completed in this game that it is taking that amount of time that this game is not even completed after like 9 years.
so many side projects, and even talked about making other games, while Heartbound is still in its current, incomplete state, coming up on a decade since its announcement. When the conversation around Jason was at its peak, a lot of people who weren't even that tapped into the drama, or people that otherwise just never talk about it, decided to check in and give their honest thoughts. One such creator was Slippy. He posted an hour-long video reviewing everything that was complete at that time.
This game is like just actually such nothing. First thing, I can't even call it an RPG. It's not even an RPG game because you fight a boss at the end of every chapter. You don't fight anything else any other time. There's no other enemies. There is barely any combat in this game. It has no gameplay. This game pretty much has no gameplay.
You can go see his full video.
So what you are gonna do in the whole game, like you are just preparing for the last match and then you will kill that monster and the next round you will do the same shit again? Come on.
To get an even better grasp of what he's saying here, but to be honest, it's kind of overselling it to even call it an Undertale clone, because Undertale has plenty of combat and the mechanisms are extremely good and fluid. Meanwhile, Heartbound is more of a walking simulator with rare moments of combat. The actual dynamics of the game are not even 1% as impressive as Undertale. Even if it did get finished, I don't see how it would come out much better than it already is. For years at this point, Jason has been saying that he's nearly finished with the game's next chapter, and he's even shown progress charts of how far along he is. But to me, this is like saying that we're about to be at war with Iran, where it's almost always there, but then nothing ever actually happens.
Wait a second, it did happen.
Update.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran.
I think Heartbound might come out, guys. What has been finished, however, is Chudbound. It's a parody fan game made by Kiwi Farms user Crunklord420. In it, you play as a Chud who worked at Blizzard for 7 years, and
I know they just made game of added software.
has to finish his game. This guy apparently didn't get the memo though, as Jason has strictly forbidden the creation of fan games. This doesn't even make sense to me, given that Heartbound is clearly heavily inspired,
emphasis on the heavily,
by
at the same time he is trying to stop people from not making game.
Another far more popular game. But hey, you gotta protect your intellectual property, man, I get it.
So I'm gonna send this over to Kronos now, because he is a lawyer.
As 2025 came to a close, another user named Jeb Bush made a compilation of all of the supposed updates to Heartbound, which consisted of a few dialogue branches that Jason refers to as different routes, even though they have very minimal significance to the actual game. Keep in mind, this is him in May 2024, talking about his game, which people paid for.
How far away is the game? What do you mean far away? An expected launch day when it's finished. Most of what I need to get done right now is just finishing off Animus, which I believe Animus is at like 90 something percent. Let me go pull this up real fast. So what you're looking at me build right now is Picnic and the Clash. Picnic isn't ready, but the Clash is super ready. And that's kind of what we're working on right now. Animus is at 99% completion with 123 total projects that are not completed, but that also includes the language files.
In October 2021, this next chapter, Animus, was 95% done. Then, in September of 2023, it was 97% done. And in May of 2024, it was 99% done, and he was saying it wouldn't take 2 years for him to finish it. Then, in December of 2025, it was 95% again?
What does a completion chart look like right now? Exactly the same, because the room that I'm working on, the Clash, is the most complicated thing, and it's the last room in the chapters.
He is just a guy who is very good at lying. Like how he was able to even work at the Blizzard, like this does not even make sense. Yeah, it be possible that they were just giving him some of the tasks which was not even that important, so even if he just stop those tasks, no one will just say anything to him.
So nothing has changed on that. I guess it's now 95% instead of 90%. That's about it.
It took him over 4 years to go from 95% to 95%. And that's despite this part apparently being 99% done in May of 2024. I can only assume this means that he actually undeveloped about 4% of his own game over that time period. It really goes to show how much he keeps dangling fake progress in his game in front of his audience to pretend like he's still dedicated to finishing Heartbound. It's even crazier when you factor in that this is just the next chapter, because there's supposed to be an entirely new segment after that called Jotunheim. Hopefully my great-great-great-grandchildren will be able to watch it get to 95% complete as well.
Oh, I wish the Lord would take me.
I don't care.
It's really difficult for me to figure out how much of this is intentional lies from Jason versus how much is him actually convincing himself that he's making progress. Whatever the cause is, the end result is the same. We are
And if somebody's watching this video, can you tell me if my YouTube avatar is like good enough in size, or maybe I need to small it again? Because maybe YouTube does not like it sometime, and maybe they can just demonetize me for uploading these kind of videos. They think that I'm not adding value. Yeah, sometimes does not add value that much, but come on, I'm trying. This is like my first channel and I'm trying to make reaction type content. Come on.
probably never getting this game, and if we do, it will probably suck. In the meantime, I want to bring attention to a small YouTuber by the name of Iron Eye. He's been remaking Heartbound in the programming language C++, and despite the fact that it definitely looks like a much older game, it kind of looks better to me than the oversaturated art in Jason's version. This guy is still going as of a few weeks ago, and somehow he seems more dedicated to finishing it than the actual Pirate Software. As far as the most recent development for Heartbound, as of February 2026, Jason has actually released an unfinished version of the ending of Animus, and although it is playable, it's extremely rudimentary. Despite the fact that this is clearly attempting to resemble Undertale in almost every way, it falls short in some unique aspects. For example, Toby's games have a lot of anthropomorphic animals, but none of their sprites look like they have anything to do with furries. The characters are heavily stylized in a way that makes them stand out on their own. The same cannot be said for Heartbound.
He's a furry, I can just tell you that.
And it's probably because of Jason's personal experience with being a more open furry during his Second Life days. But that's not even the most interesting part. Instead, it's the fact that the whole game is apparently a self-insert fantasy for Jason. In a tweet of his, he reiterates this, outright saying that the main character is a self-insert, as he had the same hoodie, haircut, and behavior. But once people began digging into him more, one of the things they did was search through Heartbound to see if there was any interesting information to pull out of it. One such detective was YouTuber Harmful Opinions, and he managed to put some interesting puzzle pieces together in regards to how much of his personal life Jason has put into the game.
I know like way too much lore about Pirate Software. Do you remember how Heartbound starts? Electric shock. Where does the electric shock come from? A light switch. I think this story is where the light switch zap at the start comes from.
I picked up what I thought was a metal light switch, and I started flipping.
Right? He picked up something he thought was a light switch.
Back and forth, and it got jammed, and I pushed it, spring-loaded razor blade. Took the end of my finger off. That's actually the palm of my hand right there.
Well, I think the animals in the second chapter are probably just some furries he hung out with after he quit his internship at Blizzard. In his game, there's a boss fight. The character Lore, which interestingly rhymes with Thor, being gaslit by his mother and asserting reality.
Fortunately, you can't have a conversation with abusive parents. You can only get guilt-tripped and manipulated again. I disagree with you entirely. You can have a conversation at them that brings peace to yourself.
If this is true and the main character's parents are supposed to represent Jason's parents, then that's pretty concerning. In the game, Lore's dad is depicted as a victim of spousal abuse, while the mom is shown as psychologically and emotionally abusive.
So I can just play this game and know what Pirate Software life was and how his parent and friends are.
The main character's name is Lore. Jason Hall goes by the name of Thor. The second chapter of the game is about Lore going into work in a corporate environment called the Tower, where he's antagonized and oppressed, possibly an analogy for his time working at Blizzard. The third chapter is Animus, and that's where he meets all of these anthropomorphic furry characters, which...
So these people are his friends, and is he fighting his father in the game or what?
May be supposed to represent his immediate post-Blizzard life when he met a bunch of furries. The game itself begins with the sound of thunder, and the last chapter is supposed to be called Jotunheim, both of which are obviously references to Norse mythology and Thor. There are also some other not-so-clever allegories, like one of the characters being named after his girlfriend, and another one being an anagram for the word serotonin. It's hard to confirm how much of his game directly represents his past, given how much of it is shrouded in mystery. But concerning the Tower chapter and his time at Blizzard, there's one person who can shed some light. Kiwi Farms user Boing Boing. Although my original video on him
Boing Boing.
already covered most of what she had said about her time working with and being roommates with Jason. After it came out, she continued to make posts sharing some interesting pieces of info. She started by sharing this picture of herself, her friends, and Jason, who for some reason is wearing steampunk goggles. According to her, he invited himself into this picture. As she put it, my press friend came up to me, the cosplayer he'd been friends with for 500 years, and asked for a photo with me, not Moldavius Figtree. Press friend saw the co-workers' friends I was chatting with and said he wanted them in the picture too. Jason saw this happening and invited himself to join in. He was
a guy which no one likes, and he was just trying to insert himself into the group, which I have seen plenty of people do that.
Not even a part of this social group, let alone the conversation. I am hunched over toward friends and cringing a bit for a reason. In the same post where she shared this, she also included a video showing comments from someone named Rail, who she identified as another ex-Blizzard employee and a former manager of Jason's, who agrees with most of what she had already said and added a few details. Firstly, he claims that while it was true that Jason only pretended to work at times, this was actually something many people did at Blizzard, as this manager would often catch them with a tiny window of Netflix open, watching it instead of doing their job. This was such a big issue that higher management told them to expect only 2 hours of work per day from each employee. The part about this that is specific to Jason is that while you could punish most other employees for slacking off, Jason was off limits. According to Rail, upper management ensured he was untouchable. Boing Boing, why is the name Boing Boing? Can we talk about that? Boing Boing also shared a testimony from another person she claimed was from Blizzard, one of which said that Jason actually did do the work assigned to him whenever it was on World of Warcraft, because he actually liked that game, meaning that him supposedly slacking off was reserved for other projects. A big part of Jason's online brand was his expertise as a programmer, repeatedly referencing his past work experience as part of his credentials. This is where the memes about Blizzard come from.
You heard this guy worked at Blizzard? Oh man, did you read that in a Reddit thread? Tell me about it in the unbanned request, chat hopper. You're overreacting? No, I'm not. I worked at Blizzard for 7 years.
This largely fell apart as his time at Blizzard was revealed to have nothing to do with being an actual engineer. Well, in another post, she shares some text message exchanges between herself and another ex-Blizzard employee, again saying that Jason was never an actual engineer, as instead he went from working quality assurance straight to being a part of the platform security team.
Yeah, it was like nepotism that he was promoted there, and I'm pretty sure he was working on some kind of thing which was not even interested and important to Blizzard, so he was just doing shitty thing there, and that's why no one just give a shit about him, and no one tried to stop him, even if he tried to write wrong codes.
To give him some credit, they also say this is something he was actually good at, but they then double back to say that he was overall an annoying personality to work with, and that he later on exaggerated what he did during his time there. This is mostly stuff we already know, but if this person is who they claim to be, and if they are telling the truth, then it once again solidifies the narrative that Jason exaggerated his time working at Blizzard for internet brownie points and credibility. Although
I am pretty sure a lot of people will do that kind of thing, like they will say I was very good at that job, but at the same time he was not that great.
I do want to say here that this is just this person's testimony. Does it line up with what was said previously? Yes, but there could be more to the story. You just never know. Later on, another one of Jason's coworkers by the name...
Imagine this, that you leave your company where you were working for 7 years, and after that you start your YouTube journey, and suddenly there is a lot of people who has a lot of negative thing for them to say about you. I think that is pretty obvious and pretty clear that you were not a good guy, and you did some of the shittiest thing there. That's why everyone just started to hate you.
Of Brett is identified as the specific person who he had been modeling himself after when he told stories about working in cybersecurity and being an ethical hacker. All of this supposed testimony from his former coworkers goes to show how mundane his work actually was, which pales in comparison to how much emphasis he put on his former employment. Based on the consensus between all of these people, it becomes very clear that unlike what is depicted in Heartbound and what Jason himself says about his time there, he was not exploited, underpaid, or really mistreated.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he was just there because of his father, and he was not even doing great job there. That's why everyone just hated him that he was even there.
The narrative of him abandoning the corporate gaming industry after being taken advantage of, which he's been pushing ever since he kickstarted Heartbound, is seriously called into question. Not just because of all the privileges he had at Blizzard, but also because of his own lack of commitment to actually being an indie dev, which, believe it or not, happens to go beyond Heartbound. As I said before, the kind of games Jason actually wishes he could work on is MMORPGs. And although there's just no shot he's going to make one of his own, he has tried in a way. For the last few years, he's been curating and maintaining a mod and plugin pack for his private Minecraft server, which he calls Block Game. If you
Wait a second, okay. So this guy who hates people can just get their hands on a private server game from big companies. At the same time, he is making his own private server of Minecraft. Like, you can just see the hypocrisy right there.
you've ever caught some clips of his stream and you saw him working on code with a text document open, you definitely saw him working on Block Game. You may think he would be working on Heartbound on these regular 12-hour streams, but you would be totally wrong. Kind of a side note here, but I find it strange that he claims he only started streaming to show people that he was actually developing Heartbound and that he didn't just run away with the Kickstarter money. Because later on, he said that he doesn't want to work on Heartbound on stream because it makes him uncomfortable, because it's too personal to do in front of an audience.
That's what I have already told, that he is very good at lying.
And just to close off this little side note, he's definitely lying when he says he only started streaming because of his game. He used to have a channel on YouTube and Twitch called Impolite Lad, where he streamed League of Legends and Minecraft. He always wanted to be a streamer. The indie game developer stuff was just a very good excuse to stream all day. Once again, this is something he could have just been honest about from the jump, but I digress. Beyond the fact that it's pretty weird that he's publicly working on other projects instead of the game he's supposed to be working on, it didn't take long before his own fan base grew very frustrated.
I think Turkey Tom forgot to add this fact that how he's working on this game, making its own private server, while he is discouraging people that no, you cannot ask big companies about private servers.
With how mismanaged Block Game was. A Reddit user named Sansyboy wrote about what it was like to play on the server. Over a year ago, I joined Pirate Software's game that he calls Block Game, and the way we were treated is insane. In Block Game, there was a custom hunger system that went down with time. You had 10 minutes of hunger and a separate hydration bar that needed different food items to fill that give you an extra 10 minutes. After a ton of bad updates Thor had made, he eventually found out that most players were eating kelp because it had the vanilla hunger system and was really easy to obtain. No one knew that this wasn't allowed, as the game itself only has 3 vague rules. This caused what I can only describe as a tantrum. Me and 2 other players were sitting in a Discord call when we saw Thor in-game yelling and complaining about everything us players were doing. Anytime someone objected, they were banned. He personally called me a douchebag who was demanding time from him after I made a very popular suggestion for him, which is how we were told to leave suggestions, where I said that Thor should talk with a team of players or just the players in general.
He does not even want to talk to somebody. He is a guy who thinks that he can just handle everything by himself
To see what needs to be changed, as he did not have enough time to play the game properly. Keep in mind, we were all fans of his at the time, and the things he said in some of these cases were insane, even blaming the players as a whole for the fact that he was receiving death threats. This whole situation caused many players, including myself, to quit. Sansyboy then proceeds to give 3 different examples of Jason losing it on his server, 2 of which involve him showing players' Discord information on his stream to 20 to 30,000 live viewers while mocking them, allegedly causing these users to be further attacked online. The screenshots he provided show him directly talking to Jason on Discord, and although Jason says that he was justified in doing what he did, he never denies bringing these players up on stream to call them out. Now, this isn't a huge deal, but just like his other controversies, it's not that Jason did something particularly evil. It's just that he consistently behaves as the exact opposite of what he presents himself to be.
I'm going to report that one myself. yourself. Shouldn't have done that on your main.
Yeah, because he's a very hypocrite guy that, for example, even if somebody try to like leak little bit information of his, he will be get angry and try to say like, oh yeah, you need to ban this guy, or you just go there and report this guy. But at the same time, he's like ready to leak people information.
Yeah, that one's reported to Twitch. I want to wait to see how long it takes Twitch to ban this person. You would know that if you were a programmer, which you're not. Banned. When I worked at Blizzard, I did that for Blizzard.
Oh, I wish the Lord would take me.
I don't care.
All of the no negativity, no criticism ethos flies out the window when it comes to moderating his own game. A game that, keep in mind, he shouldn't have even made in the first place, considering he still has to finish Heartbound. In other Discord messages from his server that got posted to Kiwi Farms, Jason can once again be seen complaining that he has to moderate his own game, closing all tickets crying about he brought up a thing from previous phases of the game. Imagine that, your reputation carried between phases. That's not our problem as game masters. Nobody is breaking rules by not liking you. Insufferable Karen stuff.
He hurt my feelings.
Attached were also screenshots of one of Jason's mods complaining that Jason was unwilling to credit them for their contributions to Block Game's code, as well as criticisms of his unwillingness to make beneficial changes to it. As far as engaging with his audience directly, Block Game was one of his last stands, and it looked a bit more tenuous as each day passed. Despite his player base,
The thing is that I have noticed is that he take every single task by himself, and he decided to do that even if he is not that great at it. Why are you not trying to ask people to help you out? I am pretty sure that all of his games and all of the projects which are remain will be completed very fast if he try to like add somebody to help him out. But I'm pretty sure if somebody is there to even help him, he will annoy that guy also, and that person will leave him. So yeah, it doesn't make sense that no one wants to be close to him.
Barely limping on, in November of 2025, Jason suddenly had an epiphany. He thought that the right move was to port Block Game from Minecraft to a newer game called Hytale. If you don't know what Hytale is, it's like if you swapped Minecraft's survival and building emphasis with heavy fantasy and adventure. The fact
Minecraft with mods, I think so.
The fact that it looks similar to Minecraft is not an accident. It was originally a modded Minecraft server before it went on to become its own thing. But just because it came from Minecraft does not mean that it's the exact same thing. So the idea that Jason could just port Block Game into it is insane. It would take a lot of work for that to be feasible. And as it stood, Block Game was already pretty broken and lacking incentive, as it didn't have that many players. So with all that being said, why did Jason suddenly latch onto the idea of making Block Game on Hytale?
Again, he's trying to make another private server of another company game, but he does not want people to have access to other private server games.
The answer is pretty obvious: clout. When he made his tweet, Hytale was peaking in popularity, with a lot of streamers hopping on it. So naturally, Jason thought that this was the best way to try and siphon off some of that attention, even if it came at the expense of Heartbound. Not only is this Hytale move another instance of Jason blatantly trend hopping, but he also takes the opportunity to do two other things that he loves to do. First, he claims that one of his moderators, Jake, will do the grunt work of reworking Block Game to work on Hytale. And he then says that he's been in contact with the Hytale devs.
I started talking to the development team, and I was talking to their community manager, Budacat.
He shows no evidence that he is in contact with them, and then indirectly admits that he doesn't actually have privileged access to it, because he says that the work will only start when the game is launched to the public on January 13th.
Again, he's very good at lying, so I'm not quite surprised by his action.
We've already got everything set up. We're already talking to the dev team again. We're going to be starting that work on January 13th. We're already talking to the dev team.
It's actually impressive to see the manic delusions he gets about developing games, as if he could actually do any of the things he's talking about.
Also, for the person earlier who asked about Hytale, will the Block Game development continue on Minecraft? It will for about a year. It's going to take us about a year to transport everything from Minecraft to Hytale in a way that is correct, you know, for Block Game to move forward. And that's just a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work, and when we get it done, we'll be able to move on and change stuff. But for now, Everything's going to be in Minecraft, and we're going to generate a bunch of content in Minecraft, and then we're going to build systems to transport that to Hytale starting on January 13th. And that's it.
So his plan is to simultaneously port Block Game over to Hytale while continuing to maintain and add new content to the Minecraft version, all the while, I assume, continuing to stream and work on Heartbound. This is a terminal case of Steve Jobs syndrome, when someone genuinely believes they can just speak things into reality as if they're a CEO and know what they're talking about. I think Jason eventually came to his senses and realized just him and his moderator Jake wouldn't be nearly enough to carry out even a fraction of his plans. So he resorted to his community, asking for artists to make models for the game. In exchange, he offers a 30% profit share of the models whenever someone buys them. This really feels like him trying to recreate the wingless Emoto business model, where he pimps out artists and promises them a percentage for their original work. I actually can't believe he's still doing it and work on Heartbound. This is a terminal case of Steve Jobs syndrome, when someone genuinely believes they can just speak things into reality as if they're a CEO and know what they're talking about. I think Jason eventually came to his senses and realized just him and his moderator Jake wouldn't be nearly enough to carry out even a fraction of his plans. So he resorted to his community, asking for artists to make models for the game. In exchange,
So he's finally asking people.
he offers a 30% profit share of the models whenever someone buys them. This really feels like him trying to recreate the wingless Emoto business model, where he pimps out artists and promises them a percentage for their original work. I actually can't believe he's still doing it 15 years later. Unsurprisingly, when Hytale came out, Jason immediately hit a wall and spent 3 days trying to make explosions in the game. Upon seeing this, a forum user named Lurking9E9 got on Hytale and immediately figured out how to do this by using the game's own grenade mechanism. There really is no understanding Jason's unwillingness to actually learn what he wants to do before he starts trying to do it.
Come on, guys, he's a genius. He knows what he is doing.
His delusion is so grand that he actually put together a Word document with a series of requests to the Hytale dev team, loaded with things that would just make Block Game implementation easier. In my opinion, the reality is that he just wanted to use this as an excuse to butt in and be a part of Hytale. We're gonna see more of this kind of stuff later, so tuck that in your back pocket for now. When Hytale finally released, there was a ton of hype around it. Briefly, it was the most watched game on all of Twitch, but the hype obviously died down. That's just what happens with a lot of highly anticipated games. And with that hype dying down, Jason's excitement to port Block Game into it quickly waned. Just like Heartbound, once he phases out of the initial stage of mania about a new project and finds out that working on it requires actual consistent effort, it just becomes another one of his perpetually unfinished back burner items. This wouldn't even necessarily be a problem if not for the fact that he constantly overpromises and consistently underdelivers. But alas, here we are. Besides Block Game, Jason embarked on several side quests in his everlasting pursuit of doing literally anything besides working on the things he's supposed to be working on. These side quests include getting his followers together to draw things on W Place, only for it to be defaced by trolls and ultimately nuked by a gigantic poop gnome. He also tried his hand at streaming Path of Exile and old school RuneScape for a while, although he got a bit sidetracked by talking about a period of time during which he was supposedly homeless.
Living out of your car is going to be hard. The second thing that you want to do, the best thing you can do, is there are places a lot of the times, what is it called? Food banks. See if there's any food banks near you. Use the internet to find a food bank. That can help a lot. Sometimes they'll have really good fresh produce. They'll have different stuff like that that you can just go and get for free. And that's really helpful. And I think that if you follow those, that's like the first thing you can do. And from there, you just got to get a job, dude. Any job, right? Yeah, food pantries, food banks, any of that stuff is going to help, right?
Guys, you need to get a job.
Yeah.
J-O-B.
And yeah, for those who are wondering, no, this is going to be talking about ass. I was homeless living out of my car. That was a long time ago when I was young.
How it's possible that he was homeless? Can somebody tell me? Because I'm pretty sure his father is very rich, so maybe one day he decided to kick him for like few hours, and that's how he feel like he was homeless.
was a dumbass, and I didn't save my money, and I screwed up, and I lived out of my car for a long time. A lot of chat, a lot of the community already knows this.
This guy's dad is a multi-millionaire.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Like, how it's possible for him to become homeless?
His own LinkedIn shows that he graduated from high school in 2006 and started working at Blizzard in 2009. And being somewhat of a pirate software connoisseur myself, I know he was going hard at Second Life between those years. So when was he homeless exactly? Does he mean he went homeless after quitting Blizzard? Because as far as I can tell, he went straight to being an indie dev and streaming after. So I'm not exactly sure when he's supposed to have been homeless. I'm not saying it's completely impossible. It's just that given how many tall tales this guy has been caught in, this is highly dubious for me. Jason then relates his experience to that of disabled people.
What about disabilities? What about them? If you have a disability that's stopping you from cooking entirely, you're unable to function that way, you will find a different way to tend to yourself. Maybe you have somebody who's helping you through life. Maybe you have another family member that can do it with you. Maybe you can get help from someone nearby, right?
I'm not saying he's necessarily wrong here. It just...
Yeah, but I just feel like I want to roast this guy in every single conversation.
strikes me as kind of odd that when he runs out of platitudes about getting food from a food bank, he defaults to telling people that they can just figure it out, even if they're disabled and homeless. None of this was really real advice. It's like,
I'm homeless.
Well, if you have no home, you should get food and then get a job.
I think some level of this can all be chalked up to the fact that when you're streaming for 12 hours a day, probably 98% of what you say is going to be totally worthless.
For me, I don't do streams. Like, I decided to do that, and you can just go there and see how many mistakes I do during like making this kind of reaction videos. So I think I can say like, yeah, sometimes he can be wrong.
I've heard that, but I've seen some of these.
Now, he eventually had to back off from playing RuneScape for a variety of reasons. For one, he was so thoroughly bothered in-game that he had to install plugins to basically turn it into a single-player experience so the people calling him a roach wouldn't show up. But what really pushed him over the edge was some drama involving an alleged DDoS attack. To my understanding, around the time he started playing RuneScape on stream, OSRS announced that it had suffered some network attacks. And some people began jokingly attributing this to Jason being on the game. Jason obviously saw this as an opportunity to make himself look more important than he actually is. So he proceeded to act like these were serious claims and not just jokes on Twitter.
Why is everyone blaming you? I don't know.
This is very crazy that every single time if his name is mentioned, and that thing is like little bit of attention grabbing thing that he's ready, he will say like, yeah, I am the main root of this thing, so you now need to pay more attention to me, and I'm the center of every single thing. I'm pretty sure that he will be happy if his name was in the Epstein file, because he will have a few points like, yeah, I told the Jeffrey that you don't have to do this kind of stuff, so yeah, that's how my name was there.
Like, because I started playing the game yesterday, and they're mad at me, and now they think that I'm DDoSing Jagex because...
You can just see like how much credit he wants, and he just want everyone to look at him that he is some kind of big shot.
Like, to be honest with you, it's moron behavior. Like, it's clearly not me. I've been playing this game and enjoying it. Like,
if this was everything that happened with RuneScape, it wouldn't even be mention worthy. But I have to say, in complete honesty, that I can barely comprehend what happened next. Over the next few days, Jason claimed that he began suffering network attacks whenever he was streaming RuneScape. He says that these network attacks somehow targeted his internet provider, but only affected his connection. And on top of that, it only affected his connection to RuneScape while not affecting his streams.
Like, come on, can I say the R word, like retard? How much of a retard can you be to say this kind of arguments? Like, come on, how can you do live stream while you are being DDoSed by some hackers and they are just only targeting your game? Like, come on, how?
Despite the attack apparently being on his network and not on RuneScape. If that sounds like meaningless gibberish, it's because that's exactly what it is. From the looks of it, RuneScape suffering a network attack reminded him that he used to LARP as a hacker, so he decided to simultaneously flex his cybersecurity knowledge while also playing the victim card, claiming that the network attacks were directed at him specifically.
we have a perfect connection, 3 gig up, 3 gig down, no issues. It's not a DDoS. because there's no throughput coming through to my router or to our node in any way. Already had talked to our ISP about it. They saw no increase in traffic between us and anywhere else.
A YouTuber named King Condor did a 20-minute video trying to decipher what Jason was actually trying to claim here, and it doesn't seem like he had much success in untangling all of this either. I wish I could break this down to you in terms that are easy to understand, but I don't think there is a way to understand. Eventually, Jason started getting tired of RuneScape, and among other things, he suggested that he might stream another game called Ashes of Creation. Little did he know what was waiting just around the corner. Now we arrive at probably the highest profile pirate software has been since everything in 2025. Much like Hytale, Jason's interest in Ashes of Creation was very vested. He wanted to, in any way possible, be a part of the game's development, and he resented that he was never allowed in. To summarize his relationship with the game, back in late 2024, Jason was the biggest streamer actively playing it, along with his gigantic guild. Naturally, he used this opportunity, this position of power, to bully other people in the game, blacklisting them while bragging about it on his stream.
What matters right now is that unless you leave right now, we're just going to kill your guild every time we see you. We'll hunt you in PvP. We'll make sure you don't get any of the endgame subs. That's what we'll do. I don't know why you've chosen to do this. You wanted to die on this hill, but you look like jackasses now. If you act like a bitch, I'm going to fight you. That's it. That's how this works in games like this. This is a social sandbox. Don't act like a bitch. It's not that hard to understand. It's not even a 1,000-member strong guild. We have 15,000 members. We're not looking for issues, then get out of our spawn location. Whispering me isn't going to change that, Rich. You've caused enough problems that we're putting your guild on the blacklist. By the way, I can tap faster than you because I have 3 gig up-down fiber internet. Good luck ever getting another one of these pulls. It made an enemy, and it's us, and we're the largest guild in the server.
Come on. He's talking like he's the main character of this game.
Which is really a big mistake. What I like to do inside of these games is keep people to a proper standard of etiquette. God complex? No, it's not a god complex. Here, I'm going to ban you. That's my god complex.
As you can see, he does not like criticism, any criticism.
Go ahead.
It's like all of the performatively meek and friendly veneer he puts on during his streams instantly melts away when he gets to overpower people. It's ironic that his dad was the one that got turned into the fat guy in his mom's basement in South Park, when Jason clearly fits the bill much better. He genuinely turns into a different person in-game. Of course, this kind of behavior was disliked by the game's community, so he became widely hated. A YouTuber called MetaBreaker made a video about this, documenting the fact that after all of his bravado and deranged power tripping, he and his guild actually sucked at the game, and after making enough enemies, they started losing battles until they were basically forced out. Over a year later, Jason tried sneaking back into the community in hopes that no one remembered how things went last time. However, at this point, he could barely contain his resentment, not only for the community, but also for the devs. In a recent segment of his streams, he criticized the game's management, claiming that the in-game chat is rife with anti-Semitism and that the reporting tools are inefficient.
There are people that in the game, in global chat, have been screaming like crazy anti-Semitic for like 5 days. There's no way to /report that player in game. You have to go to their website and pull it all up, take a screenshot, and then report them there. That's really weird.
Although this complaint could be true, it's interesting that it only appeared now as opposed to when he was heavily into the game, when his guild was absolutely dominating it. Suddenly, after the community turned its back on him and the devs didn't recognize his amazing game dev skills, his opinion on the game drastically shifted, as he went from glazing it to having literally nothing nice to say.
Yeah, that is his ego talking now, that no one is giving him the attention he needed. So now he's going to use every single tactic he has to just defend this game.
He couldn't contain himself either, as he had to share with his stream how the dev team was now ignoring him.
And this is in a private DM between myself, the community manager, another member of the staff team, and Steven, to give them this feedback and be like, I don't like seeing this as a player. So I'm not just like, I'm putting all of that into packages of feedback and then sending it to the dev.
Another thing is that, for example, he wants to add that amount of thing which is like right behind me. Come on, no game developer will do that. They need to update slowly every single thing, and they are not that free to fix like little small bugs. They are just developing the whole game there.
development team, which you should do if you're playing an alpha. You know, do the thing. Tell them how you feel. Have you asked Steven for an interview recently?
By the way, this game is in alpha, but he's complaining about the chat system and those kind of thing. Come on, those developers are already busy making the game better. They are not there to like check the chat and who is saying whatever they want. I'm pretty sure they will ban them later if somebody try to say those words, and I'm pretty sure there will be a automated system who can detect like who is using some kind of slurs or any bad language.
I think Steven might be upset at the feedback that I gave about sport fishing, so I don't know, man.
Not only is he compelled to show everyone that he's in contact with the devs, he then has to cope about how they're not responding to him because they didn't like his feedback, instead of the more obvious response that they probably aren't that concerned with what Jason has to say.
And maybe they are busy. They don't decide to like pay attention to his thing which he highlighted, or maybe they are already working on it and they just don't want to go through this guy, which I'm pretty sure if I was the owner of that company and some streamer is actively trying to say like you need to fix that, you need to fix that, I'm pretty sure I will like ignore that guy completely, because come on, let us do our work and don't try to like be a boss of us.
The most ironic part is that one of his go-to criticisms about Ashes of Creation is that it's derivative of another game called ArcheAge, and that it's, quote, intellectually lazy.
And I started looking at everything that was happening there, and I realized something kind of weird. Almost everything in Ashes of Creation is a direct one-to-one copy of ArcheAge, with no changes, and that's disappointing to me, as a dev and a player.
As a dev, come on, you did not even completed your own game, but you are here to say like you are a game dev. For me, a game dev is a guy who completed his own game, and he's not a guy who is actively trying to advise somebody to like fix that while your game is not even completed, and your game does not have that amount of playable content that everyone is like complaining to say like come on, there is nothing to do in your game and you just have to kill monster in the last round and you need to go level up. Like how you are there to complain and try to guide a huge game company while you yourself does not have a good game to show like how good of a game developer you are.
I find that to be intellectually lazy. There is no difference. There is no change. It is exactly the same. There is no innovation whatsoever. It is theft.
Look who is talking about theft and also innovation, while he is the guy who is actively copying a lot of mechanism from another games.
Keep in mind, Jason calls himself a game dev because he made an Undertale clone and another game that is entirely dependent on the codebase of Minecraft, and he's accusing someone else of being derivative and lazy.
That's what I am talking about, like how much of a hypocrite and also egoistic guy he is, that he don't see all of the thing which he is like actively trying to say about other people.
You cannot physically get more hypocritical than this. On stream, you could see him playing the game and obsessively reporting every single little clipping issue and minor bug that he could find, probably in the hopes that if one of his complaints got fixed, he could take some credit for it.
That also doesn't look.
And because of that, those game developer does not want to interact with this guy, because for example, if he highlighted some bug and they fixed it, he's ready there to like take credit, and that can also be not a good thing for those game developer. Like people will say, okay, so this streamer told you to fix that how you fix that, and you are listening to like streamer and not player. So I think that is a pretty good thing for developers to just stay away from streamers and try to like actively listen to their fan base, not a single streamer.
Like it's in the right location at all, so some environment designer has made a mistake. That's definitely a bug, dude. Look how weird that looks. Yeah.
I'm gonna bug report that.
It's been well over a decade since he was a bug reporter at Blizzard, and this is still his only skill, to the point where it kicks in like muscle memory.
They need feedback, they need bug reports.
This is the same exact behavior he exhibits on Hytale too.
Give feedback. Bug report.
So 100%, this is how he thinks he can force his way into a dev team, by being a personally elected hall monitor.
That bug is still in? Oh. kind of annoying.
For the time being, it seemed like Jason was doing his usual shenanigans and that it wouldn't escalate in any way. But this time, he got pretty lucky that within just a few weeks of him starting to hate on Ashes, the game and the company that made it went completely belly up. Steven Sharif, the founder of Intrepid Studios, took to Discord to make an announcement. Control of the company shifted away from me, and the board began directing actions that I could not ethically agree with or carry out. As a result, I chose to resign in protest rather than lend my name or authority to decisions I could not ethically support. Following my resignation, much of the senior leadership resigned. Following those departures, the board made the decision to issue WARN Act notices and proceed with a mass layoff. I cannot responsibly speak to further details at this time due to ongoing legal and governance matters. A lot of people reacted in disappointment, as they seemed to actually like the dev team behind the game, and they didn't like the fact that they were all unceremoniously laid off. However, the general sentiment was also that this game had always been a scam or had become one along the way. A game which was only put together well enough to be sold off as if it were an actual product, and once the money was in, there was no longer any reason to keep developing it to completion. The main idea on Reddit was that the game was purposely released in an unfinished state, so that legally, no player who paid for it could allege that they never got what they paid for. For context, Ashes of Creation got $750,000 in a single day back in 2017, when its Kickstarter first launched. Just so you can gauge the amount of money we're talking about here. The reason that the studio falling apart didn't really come as a shock to anyone is that from the moment people discovered Steven Sharif was the person behind the game, they already started to suspect that it was a massive scam. This is because of allegations made towards Steven that he used to run a website that sold a kind of juice that was marketed as a treatment to help cancer. Steven responded to these allegations with this statement: "When I was 18, I was recruited to join a multi-level marketing company called Zango. Zango sold nutritional products, a fruit juice, and vitamins. I started a website store to sell these products to customers, and my website was very successful. Zango is still around today as a company, and after 14 years, I think it's done over $3 billion in sales and is open in 50 plus countries. Yes, they are an MLM, and I understand that people dislike multi-level marketing because some companies focus on recruitment of people instead of sales of a product. But companies like Avon, Mary Kay, and Zango really focused on selling a product. What you would
So he's actively trying to gaslight people that he was running MLM, but at the same time, he's telling people like, no, I was not doing that. I was just providing the services and selling the product.
find at a Whole Food store or health store. I hope you immediately picked up on him basically justifying the multi-level marketing pyramid scheme business model just because it sells a product. Naturally, when it came to promoting his own product with Ashes of Creation, guess what the guy did? He offered YouTubers and content creators money to go recruit other content creators and promote Ashes of Creation. I'll let you decide if that sounds like a multi-level marketing guy is doing what a multi-level marketing guy does, but it's safe to say that this game has always been tainted with a bad reputation due to Steven's involvement. So, when he announced he was resigning in protest over ethics, people were skeptical, and for good reason. When they investigated further, they found that the filing for the Intrepid Studios LLC had no mention of any board, only Steven, the CEO, and John Moore, his CFO. It's also worth saying that Steven repeatedly told everyone who asked him about it that his company had no board to answer to, and thus they wouldn't be subject to the same kind of bad, money-hungry decisions that the rest of the gaming industry is currently plagued.
So they already try to say like, okay, so we are just in love with this game and trying to actively make this game, so there will be not a single scam, but at the same time, if there is like not a single board who is actively trying to like want to make profit from the game, so they will want a better game to be made. But if they don't have any corporates overload on them, they can just take those money and steal it, while at the same time trying to like release that game as like completed game.
Bye.
Call of Duty added Nicki Minaj and sent me the bundle for free.
Funnily enough, one of his defenses from the allegations he was with the Zango multi-level marketing scheme was that he wasn't on its board. It's like board is this guy's power word, his Jedi mind trick that he pulls out whenever he needs to weasel out of a situation. But how does this all connect to Pirate Software? Well, as I said before, prior to him switching up on the game because he wasn't getting special treatment, treatment, Jason used to promote Ashes of Creation a lot, going as far as to call out YouTubers who criticized it. Case in point, a guy named Narc. Back in early 2025, Narc made a video where he had a long series of critiques about Ashes, claiming that features promised by Steven weren't being delivered on, and that the staff had lied about how many players were active on the game to inflate the appearance of success, all while they squeezed their player base for more money for each development step the game took to get out of alpha. He was one of the first people who came forward and accused the game of being an elaborate scam. It made a lot of waves when it came out, primarily being reacted to by Asmongold. The reception of Narc's video was pretty mixed, as people thought that although he was right in some points, he was also unnecessarily negative about the game in general. But instead of giving Narc's video any genuine consideration, Jason made a response which now only exists on TikTok, where he focuses exclusively on Narc's claim that the desert region of the game was severely underdeveloped. Even if Jason is completely right on this, it doesn't negate how shifty the leadership of AOC was already being at this point in time. But none of that gets addressed or even acknowledged by Jason, because at that point, he was a loyal shill for the game. Now we can go back to the present day, where right after Steven announced his resignation, Jason came forward on Twitter with a statement. Woke up to Ashes of Creation being shut down. I can honestly say I'm not very surprised after this current phase on Steam. In January of 2025, the team at Intrepid was doing a good job. There were bugs, performance issues, and moderation problems, but they communicated and handled things relatively well. Fast forward to this current phase on Steam, and everything imploded. Tons of content that we reported as broken back in 2025 was still unfixed, even if it was extremely low-hanging fruit. On top of
still he is going to say like, yeah, I was pointing out to all of those bugs, but nothing happened. Even I tried to contact them, they did not respond. So yeah, I am not gonna take responsibility while I was promoting this game now, so you don't have to blame me because I have already criticized this game and I was actively trying to say like, yeah, this game has bugged, but at the same time I was promoting this game to a lot of my subscribers.
That, moderation was basically non-existent, so players were routinely spouting racial slurs, threats, and hate speech in global all day.
As you can see that he is trying to actively highlight those points which he has told, but I'm pretty sure there will be other thing he is going to say about those developers.
In any other game, these people would be immediately banned. I went to bat for Intrepid many times over the years, encouraging people to give them a chance, removing misinformation, and showing the community all of the best points of the game. On a personal level, I am incredibly disappointed in the entire company now. This isn't the kind of environment that I want to build a community around, and not one I personally want to support.
So he's going to try to just say that, yeah, I'm not gonna take responsibility of my actions.
I ended up quitting the game 3 days ago due to this, and now it's been shut down entirely. Of course, people who were actually there during January of 2025 remembered that many of the things Jason was now taking issue with were already being criticized by Narc. When this was pointed out in his replies, Jason was in denial, claiming that when Narc criticized it, the game was still good. On one hand, could the game have gotten worse in a window of just 4 months between the moment Narc quit and the moment Jason says it started to get bad? I guess. But it really looks like Jason is so incapable of considering that maybe someone had a different experience with the game than he did. And it's to the point where he will still insist Narc was wrong, even if he ended up saying very similar things about the game, just at a different point in time. The real reason behind Jason's frustration was always thinly veiled, as following every criticism of the actual game, he said things like this.
8 days with streamer privilege. That was the other thing too, is like, yeah, I have streamer privilege. Obviously, right? Like I'm directly talking to them, and they took 8 days to respond to me. They took up to 21 days to respond to other people, and they just didn't ban people that were doing this. So 4 days ago, I actually was in a talk with Steven Sharif and Margaret, because we have a group DM in there. It's myself, one of their QA people, Margaret, Steven Sharif, and Kronos. Talking about everything that I have with the game.
You may be wondering what exactly made him so upset that it led him to quit the game. I mean, it couldn't have been the game being derivative or whatever he was yapping about earlier.
Or maybe that game developer started to ignore him, that how he was very angry about that because he loved power tripping and he just want to control the whole situation, which he suddenly lose, and that how he decided to like be more angry about the whole situation.
because it's not as if the game radically changed recently. And even if it did, Jason clearly has no problem with derivative stuff. Could it have been the supposed hate speech that he saw in global chat? Well, in his video about Ashes of Creation, he seems to suggest that this was the case.
And I was sending them stuff back and forth with this, and I was like, hey, we got a serious moderation problem on the server. And we started linking them things. There was a guy that was actually posting comments about Jewish people every day, all day, right? He was just doing that every single day, all day. And the account would just change every single day. Guy never got banned.
So if the account got changed, do you not think that maybe he was getting actively banned and he was just making a lot of accounts to say those kind of things?
We had a guy that was saying that he wanted to form a group to go all the LGBT people on the server. We got a screenshot of that, sent it up to them. Guy never got banned. We had a guy that was claiming that, there was people that were saying all kinds of hate, basically. Like, if I could go through the whole list, but it's a ton of them. It's like dozens of people, and people all over the server were dealing with this and seeing it in global at all times.
For starters, it's really annoying when anyone says,
"We got screenshots of that,"
and then proceeds not to show any screenshots of that. If he has screenshots that can prove these things were actually happening and being discussed with moderation, he definitely should have shown them. And because he didn't, it makes me think that this wasn't the real issue. Secondly, he simultaneously says that the anti-Semitic guy in global chat was never banned, but he also says that the account doing it changed every single day. Wouldn't that mean that this guy was consistently getting banned and
Yeah, and that how, like, you can just see how much of a low IQ he has, that he's not even thinking about what he's even saying.
making another account? Lastly, he talks about someone named Margaret Crone. She was a part of the staff for Ashes of Creation. Jason shows a response he supposedly got from her where she says that the messages happened in a very short window and, quote, involved only a handful of posts, meaning that their moderation wasn't going to permaban someone over it. The thing about this is, Jason never actually specifies what Margaret is talking about here. It's just an out of context message. It couldn't have been the anti-Semitic posts, so what actually is this about? Margaret herself went out of her way to make a Facebook post clarifying what Jason was really complaining about. When someone brought up the stuff Jason claimed was the problem, Margaret replied saying this. This was not what that message was in reference to. It was in reference to someone calling him a ferret and saying, good stuff, your Kiwi Farms page is booming. We actioned the account, but did not permanently ban the person. Those other folks saying super egregious things like saying they wanted to kill people, we were banning, but we had a small team and were working through banning them in our queue.
Yeah, come on, that game was in the, I think, beta stage or alpha stage, and they were just busy making the update for that game, and they don't have that amount of time to like actively try to ban people. Come on, they are working 24/7 on the game. Come on, that game does not release, but still I'm not gonna blame those developer. I'm gonna blame the owner of the whole project that he tried to like steal those money or try to just say like, okay, goodbye, this game is not gonna go into much more progress.
I even sent Pirate Software a message with this information as well, and his mod, Kronos. If they want to make it right, they can. But if they want to just take things out of context, nothing I can do other than state the facts from my perspective. During an Ask Me Anything Margaret was doing on Reddit to talk to people about what happened to Ashes of Creation, 3 different accounts dumped the Discord conversation between Margaret and Jason, proving her to be telling the truth. In them, Jason conflates one guy simply mentioning his KF page with that guy somehow being connected to him being swatted in the past. He even emphasizes this, saying, I reported Irish Kiwi and Avok to you for making accusations that I abused the ferrets at our rescue and for claiming they were part of Kiwi Farms, the hate group that organized swatting of my home. I then stated to you again what Kiwi Farms is and that they were involved in swatting my home multiple times in 2025. This is Jason blatantly lying. While both of these guys could very well have accounts on the forum, Kiwi Farms is not a swatting group, and there is no evidence that they organized the swatting. As a matter of fact, despite there being very few things that the general user base of that website can fully agree on, one of them they do agree on is that organizing swattings and things of that sort is not okay, and they will punish users who think otherwise. Of course, Jason is banking on Margaret having no idea and blindly trusting him, but even if she does, simply mentioning the website wouldn't warrant a permaban. Al-Qaeda is worse than Kiwi Farms. If you go on World of Warcraft and you name yourself yourself Al-Qaeda, you shouldn't be permanently banned just because you referenced it. While Jason complains that the accounts he reported weren't banned, Margaret had already previously explained to him that not all moderation punishments are permabans, and only permabans are listed on the ban list. It's just downright pathetic to see Jason repeatedly exaggerating his claims. At one point, outright saying, "They tried to murder me," and trying to make it out as if this Avok guy was somehow connected to or otherwise responsible for his swatting. When Margaret didn't budge on this, he just left the group chat in protest. When this conversation was relitigated, Jason got salty at Margaret for making it public. But the only reason she made it public in the first place is because he lied about their conversations.
But when you have a dude that's sitting on the server praising every minute on the minute or saying that he wants to get a group together to gay people, you probably should ban that person. Gonna be honest, I don't feel like that's a stretch to ban that guy. Like and those were the ones we were reporting, and they didn't do it.
He made public claims about her, forced her into a position where not responding would make her look bad, and then cried about the response. What do you expect? Somehow, in his mind, these chat logs prove him right, when he's clearly lying at every step of the way. He has no way of knowing authoritatively that the accounts he reported weren't actioned against, and he's been proven to have lied in his video, where he said that Margaret was refusing to punish these guys who were threatening gay people, when in actuality, the crux of their discussion was about a mention of a forum and someone saying he bangs his ferrets. And Margaret did punish
What is the context for that banging his parrot thing? Because I just want to know about that.
them, just not hard enough for Jason to be satisfied. After being caught red-handed, Jason did what he does best, fired up a stream and lied some more.
The problem that I had with Margaret in that situation is that she lacked humanity, man. Like, if you have...
I can't even say some of the words which I want to say about this guy. Because YouTube is not gonna let this channel live. But come on, how can you possibly be that kind of guy that you're actively trying to blame somebody, but if that person come out and told everybody like what was the reality of the whole situation, now you are there actively crying and saying like, no, it was not like that and it was not like that.
A policy at the company, and the policy is like, we don't ban people for doing these horrible things, we just give them a warning. You could at least talk about that like a human being. Instead, full corporate robot. That is not necessary to be that way. And it drove me away entirely from the game. And I was like, you need to make this right. You need to figure this out. Because the dude that was on there was like claiming that he was part of the group that swatted my house. And if you've never been through, you probably...
Everyone can just falsely say that he was the guy. Do you have any proof of that? There is like not a single proof, and you are actively trying to say that, yeah, that guy was involved in the whole doxing situation.
You've never been through a situation like that. That's a really big deal. That's not like a small goddamn thing. That's scary, right? And like having someone in a video game be like, I'm part of that group, and then the devs decide not to ban them?
I have yet to see Jason provide a single shred of evidence that this user was part of the group that swatted him, which he...
How can you say something about that guy? And I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of guy who will try to bully you. They will be there to even say that, yeah, they were the part of the doxing team. But do you have any proof of that?
He will never provide. Ultimately, Jason got what he wanted. When Ashes of Creation fell apart, he did everything he could to make it about himself. And guess what? When Asmongold covered the news of the game failing, it got 700,000 views. But when Asmon covered the drama between Jason and Margaret, it got double the amount of traction. After waiting almost a year for his Stop Killing Games and World of Warcraft dramas to die down, he immediately put his foot in his mouth yet again and was proven to be a liar. I'm sure he would rather have you focus on things like him playing the victim and acting like he too was scammed because he never made any money out of the referral links for Ashes of Creation. And I know he'd rather have you focus on that because he kept bringing it up to try and distract from the rest of the drama, as if the referral program was what anyone was talking about. What's really impressive is that no matter how petty and stupid his reasons for it were, he turned on Ashes of Creation just days before it crashed.
So quit, and then 4 days later, they killed the company.
He was in the perfect position to capitalize on it and trash the game for more legitimate reasons, but he just had to make it about his personal beef with random players and how the mods did not coddle him.
The problem that I had with Margaret in that situation is that she lacked humanity, man.
People are currently documenting how Intrepid Studios' debts have been sold to another person who has also allegedly been involved with multi-level marketing schemes, and Jason could have easily been the face of this fiasco's coverage. He could have actually had a bit of a career revival if he was just honest about everything. Instead, he fumbled it by making it all about himself yet again. Coincidentally, at the end of February, when he was getting attacked for how dishonest he was about his interactions with Margaret, he announced he wouldn't be streaming so that he could heal his back. After getting blown out that hard, my ass would be in pain too. Ultimately, Pirate Software really is in a grave of his own making. If he had simply been honest about his time at Blizzard, he never would have had anyone wanting to tear it down and figure out the truth. If he had properly summarized Stop Killing Games and made some legitimate criticisms, then he never would have been used as a stepping stone for the initiative to succeed. If he had documented the publicly known reasons for Ashes of Creation falling apart, instead of making it about him and how his feelings were hurt, he could have revived his YouTube channel and potentially been on his way back to some semblance of serious success. Instead, he let his ego get in the way in every single instance. But hey, at least he worked at Blizzard or something.
He has a very big ego, and that ego is actively trying to destroy him, but he's not gonna let that ego go.
My name is Jason Thor Hall, also known as Pirate Software Online. I've been in the gaming industry for about 20 years. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment. You're a red team specialist for Blizzard Entertainment. And Blizzard.
Look at all the videos. It's over. Another one right there.
Pirate Software abandons his team, his sense of duty, and roaches out.
So Pirate Software did not understand the initiative. He also did not make it easy for the truth to get out.
And that's the truth, because Pirate Software said so.
There's a bunch of people that have just been putting hateful comments in all the videos. They've also been downvoting all the videos because they just don't like me.
But he got butthurt enough, and I have to assume misunderstood these messages enough that he felt confident to post these entire logs exposing this.
The problem that I had with Margaret in that situation is that she lacked humanity, man. You would know that if you were a programmer, which you're not.
And that's it for today's video. I am pretty sure that he will not recover from any of this kind of thing until he apologizes, and I'm pretty sure he will never do that. He's a big ego guy. And that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching this video. If you have other video you want me to react to, you can recommend that in the comment section. That's it for today's video. See you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.